Okay, this week we're back again, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast over the last week on Black Indigenous People of Color Mental Health Awareness Month. And we have another guest for you today. She is an exciting young lady. She is a brilliant young lady, and she has a story to tell to where she has been through so much in her life dealing with mental health and mental health awareness. Her name is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is 40 years old. I've been knowing Elizabeth for quite a while. She is a mother of 6. She is a general clerk for chartering soldiers in and out of the military and processing soldiers out of the military for the U.S. Army. This is what Elizabeth says. My hope and dream for this podcast is that it will let others that struggle with mental health or know someone that struggles with mental health that they are not alone and that there is hope, there is help, and there is recovery for you. Please sit back and enjoy Elizabeth today as she tells her story of experience, strength, and hope. All right, this is Antonio Timms, Antonio the Mayor. I have Elizabeth with me today. I've been knowing her for years, and we work together also. So I'm going to introduce her to you, and we'll let her introduce herself and let her tell a little bit about who Elizabeth is.
Okay, I am Elizabeth, and I am 40 years old, okay. And I have 6 children, and I'm pretty much, I think, a laid-back person, a people person, okay. Outspoken person. Mm-hmm. What I like to help people. I like to be there for people. Okay. Sometimes too much. Yeah.
So you worked in the helping profession before, like in jobs that you helped other people and everything. Yes. So tell me a little bit about you from a childhood to adult, growing up in the church, and how was all that for you?
Well, okay, I was born in the church. I was born on the pew. Like, that's all I knew was church. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was born in here in Junction City. Well, Manhattan, but I was raised in Junction City. Mm-hmm. So, I was, my parents, they came here through the military, and they got married in Faith Tabernacle and Pastor Westberg Church, and they had me and my brother. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So that means you grew up there. I mean, yes. The same. I won't say grew up. Like I said, I went to church with my grandmother growing up and got here and attended the church for years, then different things started happening and things. So, and one of the things that we're focusing on this month is what they consider is a Minority Mental Health Month, and now it's BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, to me, I really like last year when we had it was not too much said about it in our agency, and I worked in a mental health agency. It was just little things here and there. But this year, if we focus more on diversity and everything, we kind of put more focus on this. And as I said before we started, all of us have had problems, through mental health and everything, and have a story to tell. Like the name of this is Experience and Strength and Hope, because I want people to be able to tell what they experienced and what strength they have gotten out of it, what strength came out of what they went through, and the hope that they had. What is the future, and what is the now and the future looking like, because we don't want to stay in the past, even though these things happen. We use them to propel us, forward instead of hold us backwards and everything. Yeah. And so mental health, tell me a little about this Mental Health Awareness Month. Well, mental health to me is so important because I've struggled in my life with my mental health. I was diagnosed in 2009 after a major nervous breakdown with bipolar disorder. And that was devastating to me back in 2009. And it took me years to recover. But before I went through it, I had family members. Okay. It ran in my family, but they were very silent about it. So it was so silent to the point to where it never was an issue. We never dealt with it. My grandma would, every once in a while, she would talk about, oh, well, so-and-so, has issues with mental. health and different things like that, where we know so and so went run down the street naked or whatever, something like that. You know,
you ever heard the term people say, "I got to take my," they didn't take the crazy pill.
Yeah,
they say that when I was growing up in Chicago.
She got to be on her meds and stuff like that. Have she taken her meds or whatever? So I didn't know what none of that meant.
Right.
And then in 2009, after an episode of just being under major stress, the first husband I was married to, the father of my 5 children, when we were married, living in Dallas, Texas, he had took a job overseas, and I was pregnant with my 5th child, and all my kids are 2 years apart. So I had a 8-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a little baby. Like she was maybe she was 9 months. So I had been going through that since I was pregnant, just doing everything on my own. I mean, he was making the money, but I didn't never have a break. Like I never had nobody to just, let me take the kids or whatever. I had all these kids. So according to them, and then my grandma passed away, and it was just a lot. It was a lot of stress. Right. I mean, I would break out in hives. I would, be just under so much stress, and I didn't know who to talk to, who to turn to, or nobody. So according to the doctors, the reason why they said I've always had bipolar.
Okay.
But they said I've always had it since I was born with it.
Right. Okay.
But they said that something traumatic, everybody goes through something traumatic in life. So it would have hit me eventually, but they were like, they don't know when.
Okay.
And whatever, just me having a baby, and me having so many kids back to back to back, and then me not really having, I would say avenue to release stress and stuff like that. Then my grandma passing, just a lot of traumatic events happening all at once. It just triggered it to the max.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, it's like, I just literally, I was thinking the government was after me. I was super paranoid. I didn't trust white people.
Okay.
All right. I didn't. I did not.
Yeah.
And I thought that the government was coming, they were coming. I was looking at things like Farrakhan. And I can look at it now and it's not a big deal. But back then, I was looking at Farrakhan. I was listening to Tupac. I was doing all kind of stuff. And it was just all just coming up, in my head. I'm thinking, all the stuff is going on. So at the time, what happened was I was hearing voices and everything. And that people were coming after me and my kids. I had to protect, because you remember my husband was overseas. Okay. So I was like, I have to protect. We had just moved into a new area too, in Dallas. So we were kind of in between places and stuff like that. So something came in my head, and I'm like, I would just. It went on for days before it actually went to a head. I was literally losing my mind, and I did not realize it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And people knew something was going on, but they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. So I went outside. I had my child baby on my hip. I'm thinking I'm protecting my family. Okay. And I had took a knife out the kitchen and went outside with the knife. And I was looking for somebody to come into my house or whatever. Because you felt because I felt like we were under attack or something. Okay. Literally. So my neighbor, God bless him, I didn't even know nobody in the area. They didn't know me either. I was new. I didn't know nobody. Okay. So I had went and he took the knife out of my hand. They called the police. They took my child and called the police, and it was I don't know what they told the police, but the police came with this gun. And he was getting ready to shoot me point blank. Yes, but I didn't have the knife when he came there. Oh, okay. I would just have my children, And my neighbor stood in front. I remember him coming with his gun. He pulled his gun out. My neighbor, which was a black man, stood in front of me and said, basically, you're not going to shoot her in front of her kids. Right. And so, yeah, it was very traumatizing for me and my children. And my husband had to come back from Iraq, and he had to... basically, literally, they was trying to take my kids because they were like, "Oh, she's not stable." Okay, you know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, they were trying to take my kid. So, I basically, he came down, and his sister, his family, they decided they want to step up then, but they weren't helping before. You know what I'm saying? Like when I needed help, like before I had the breakdown, they weren't help. They wouldn't help then. But once everything cracked down, then they wouldn't help. Which I'm grateful for the help. You know what I'm saying? Because, but I'm like, okay, why didn't it come a little bit sooner? Whatever.
It seems like it always happens like that. Everybody want to help.
Everybody want to help when everything hit the fan. So basically, I went into a mental hospital for the first time in my life. I remember just going. They took me through it by an ambulance. They took me to the hospital and they shot me with all these drugs and stuff. Literally, I didn't know what was going on. It was my first time ever going through anything like this. And during a time where so
that was you hadn't been on medication or anything?
Never been on medication. Never had no issues with my mental health. Never had none. Okay. And I was still nursing my baby. Okay. She was 9 months. I was still nursing, so I had to completely wrench her off from nursing me because of the fact I was on so many medications, and they had me on all kinds. They just was trying everything, and it was very traumatic. Yeah. For my baby, for my kids, for my husband at the time, it was very traumatic.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you, it was it was like hell on earth. It was like literally hell on earth. Like you imagine your mind slipping and everybody knowing about it. Because it was so public. Okay. Because I literally had got on Facebook, and I was like, I mean, I'm not proud of what I said, but I was like, let's I was listening to some Tupac, and I'm like, kill all the white people or whatever, because we was like going through some stuff, in society, what we're going through here in America. I know what we're going through, I was like, kill them all, whatever.
Kill them all.
And they were like, oh my God, something's wrong with Elizabeth, So it was just like, and I just was saying all kind of crazy stuff. I was saying about the scriptures, the Bible, all kind of stuff. Then even me and my first husband, he was literally my childhood, my high school sweetheart and everything else. And he was my first literally man that I've ever been with. But after I had went through what I went through, men took advantage of me sexually. Okay. And it was very hard for us to deal with. I'm thinking it's an angel because my mind not right. Wow. I'm literally thinking, an angel came down, whatever. And we went through literal hell, and a lot of people didn't know because he kept it quiet. But people knew something was going on, but they didn't really know all that we were going through. It was literally hell in our house because, we had a pretty good marriage, but it couldn't handle that kind of pressure, that kind of level of mess that went in, that it couldn't handle it. And we went through it for a couple years, and I was going up and down, back and forth. He couldn't afford my medication because the insurance issue and the medicine was so expensive.
I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yes, people think, just take your meds.
Yeah, why you not taking?
Why you not taking? Well, I can't afford my medication. You know what I'm saying, and things like that. And so I remember one time I didn't sleep for like a full 48 hours, and he literally went in for like one pill. Just one pill for me to go to sleep. It was like $300 and something for one pill because he didn't have insurance at the time, and I wasn't working because I was a stay-at-home mom. So it was literally hell that we went through, and our marriage unfortunately didn't survive it. But we had 5 children, and my daughter, pretty much my oldest daughter, she's 20 years old. Which I thank God for her every day. But she pretty much, we went through something to where I went to, where he pretty much sent me to my dad's or whatever. I don't think he handled it the best way, but we did have a lot of people in our mess. Okay. And it was an issue. A lot of people, how when stuff when stuff is breaking up, how divorces and stuff, people be in your mess and they be being messy. But he handled it. I just talked to him the other day. I'm like, well, why did you do me like that? You know what I'm saying? Why did you treat me like that? And one thing I found out too, when you're going through stuff and when you're not, people feel like you're way at the bottom. A lot of people will kick you when you're down, when you're way at the bottom, and they feel like you're not going to come back up. Yeah. And, black people go for that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Kicking you down, yeah. You know what I'm saying? They want to keep you down. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people did that too. Okay. Church people. Yes. Yes. And I actually, which is something that I struggled with, was when I went through everything I went through, I was actually the because during the time where I went through this, I actually spoke out against my church, which was Faith Tabernacle.
Okay.
I did a whole blog about them. I think it was called Faith Tabernacle Speaks or something like that or whatever, where I was talking about the things that I had went on in the church. And so when I had the breakdown, the pastor, which was Pastor Edwin Young at the time, was trying to portray it as if the reason why I had to break down and the reason why everything went on because I went against the church. Yes, because I went against the ministry, and they were all shouting and screaming and praising God on behalf of me.
Are you serious?
And I listened to the sermon. Yes, I listened to the sermon. And yes, they were like, you don't touch God's anointing and blah, blah, blah. Not knowing this whole time this man was doing a whole bunch of crap behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? Sleeping with the women in the church and doing, doing all kind of crap. But I didn't know. I was just speaking out against what we had went through, and stuff like that. Because he was going around slapping kids, and he had slapped one of my cousins and stuff like that, things like that. So I didn't know. But that right there made my mental health even worse. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, wow, these people I grew up with, you know what I'm saying? Knowing what I said it's not a lie. Everything I said is the truth. Right. And I said it in love. It's not like I'm cussing you out. I'm doing this and doing that. I said it in love, like, you have to stop treating people this way. But they dogged me instead. And stuff like that can really mess with your mind. With your mind.
It can.
And so it's like, wow, and then when everything, and even my own mother, was like, it came up against me about the situation, and stuff like that. And they kind of felt like that I had went through this. People still even try, I think even today, they don't really say it as much because they know all the drama that went on in their church, but nobody has ever came back and say, Elizabeth, we apologize, for saying this or whatever, because he had all this mess going on in his life, but we were focusing on you. And even though what you said was the truth, we was trying to degrade you or trying to belittle you for what you did. But anyways, time out with that. But that's a whole nother subject.
Isn't it though, man?
But yeah, so basically, I went through a lot. I used to think, and that's why I don't know if church is necessarily. I try not to be a super religious person because a lot of times when I went through issues with my mental health, which I went through it from 2009 till just about the last time I was in a hospital was 4 years ago, and so I went through it, and sometimes I don't even know if religion is even good for me because sometimes I think, the rapture has taken place. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, about. The rapture is taking place. Oh, we're in hell
That's
already.
That's why I'm going through all this hell right now.
We're in hell already. Just stuff like that. Just crazy stuff. And I think it's a lot of it's because my upbringing. Because, we were brought such religious. And so like, oh, God's going to come and everything's going to be gone. And, he's, just a lot of stuff that where I'm like, well, is it good for my mental health? And I'm still struggling with that.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Because when you're put in this, that for so many years you trust in God. You believe, trust God. So when you're doing something wrong, that means that sending a signal in your brain that I can't even communicate with God or God is not going to help me with this or anything like that. So two things you said is one, if I can go back a little bit, I wrote something down there because I think it's a couple of areas that people need training in when they deal with mental health. The church needs training in it because the first thing we're going to say is you're demon possessed.
Yes.
It's in the Bible. They're going to tell you. Remember the man is, the police do not, the way they react to mental health, they don't have the correct training, a lot of them. Yes,
clean. In front of my camera, literally. And I've never had no problems with the law, never had no problems with any, I have no record whatsoever, know? So it's like, wow, it went to that extreme, but, it is what it is. But yeah, I used to be very, people would make you feel ashamed of what you've been through. So the way I counteracted it, because I know it's more people that whisper, I've been through this, I've been through that. I'm like, talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, how is other people gonna know you're whispering and whispering? Had I knew my family members had been through stuff like this, it would not have been so hellish for me to go through it. Okay, I would have been better prepared. But because it was such silent, kept on silent, it's like you're literally ashamed of something you have no control over. How are you going to be? I cannot tell you how many times I was so ashamed over something and so guilty over something I had no control over.
That's that stigma there.
Yes. How do you do that? And so times I was suicidal. Like, if you commit suicide, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm already in hell. How am I going to be in hell and go to hell? You know, my mom used to be like, you're going to jump at the frying pan and go in the fire. And it just makes you have a weird view of God. Uh-huh. You know what I'm saying? Exactly, it has a weird view. You have a weird view of God in general. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I'm going through all this stuff. And, you know, literally God's going to say, okay, she's going through this. She can't even get out the bed. She can't even take a shower. She can't even do anything. But I'm going to send her to hell because she, you know, takes her life or whatever. You know? It's like, okay, wow. But literally, the way that I can tell you, it's I don't even know even how I got through all this. Mm-hmm. Times my dad had to call me, and I know my parents, they helped out a lot. And at times, you know, I used to cuss my mom out and stuff. You know, I've been through, you know, just all kinds of stuff, not even realizing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You know, of course you're going to feel guilty for doing that, but you didn't have no control over it. Right. It's literally like you had no control over a lot of things that happened. And a lot of times in our, especially in the black, because since we're talking about the black right. community, yeah, we have a problem. Like you said, we try to over spiritualize everything. Yes, we try to demonize everything. Mm-hmm. Everything's not the devil. Great. You know, people do go through things, and it might be people do. You know, you do get depressed. You do go through things. Mm-hmm. You do deal with. You know, you do deal with depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. And literally, I had Bishop T.D. Jakes lay hands on me and nothing happened. Okay. You know, so God. Man, that's Bishop T.D. Jakes. You know what I'm saying? So literally, I had to go through it. Uh-huh. You know, as hellish as it was, right? I had to go through every step of it. Uh-huh. You know? So it's like, I don't know, like I'm my own. And I didn't go through it with a pastor. I didn't go through, it's like God wanted me to go through. I've called pastors. I cannot tell you how many ministries I called. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you. And they just didn't know what to do, what to say, nothing. Wow. You know, they didn't know what to do, what to say. You know, so I am my own. Like literally, it was me and God. Okay. They got me out of this mess. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. And it's a mess. And it was a big mess. You know, so like people, you know, they would try to shame me for being away from my kids. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't get to see your kids every day. You know, and that was I think the biggest thing that bothered me about everything was I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then to have their dad, when we went through the divorce, you know, he wasn't granted the kids or anything. I wasn't well enough to go to court. So, you know, whatever, you know, wherever I was at, because he had pretty much kicked me out the house and, you know, sent me to my dad's or whatever. And it was just too toxic. So
and this is all in Texas still?
In Texas. So he sent me to my dad in Charleston. And a whole nother, you know, Charleston's like 20-something hours away. Yeah. And yeah, he moved a whole nother woman in the house with my kid. It was just a mess. Like, I'm only scratching on the
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes, South Carolina. Yes. And my parents was like, go ahead and do it because we were fighting so much. And they were like, well, you know, it's going to be too much drama. So they were like, go ahead and do it. And it's just a lot of things I had to resolve. Because when you're with a man since you was 18 years old, you're like, well, why? How could he do this? Or how could he do this to me or whatever? And I understand he probably was under pressure and stress. And I just talked to him a couple of days ago. And I'm like, how could you have treated me the way you treated me? You know what I'm saying? You know, knowing, you know, I'm like your wife. Like, you see me deliver at least 4 of your kids. You know, and you treat me like I'm the gum off the bottom of your shoe. And he really didn't have too many answers for me. And sometimes people treat you different kind of ways, and this is church people and all kind of people. Right. You know, I've dealt with all kind of people. You know, and I'm not perfect by no means. You know, but I try to be careful how I cross people and be careful what I do because it can come back to you or whatever. But it separated me from my children, and my children went through a lot. And they went through a lot, and I don't even want to deal with it because it's personal. Right. But things that they didn't have to go through, I believe, if I was, you know, there. But they went through a lot with me being there. When you deal with mental health, you know, my whole family went through a lot. And I said, but I tell all of them, nobody went through more than me because I'm literally going through it in my brain. Right. And y'all dealing with the after what y'all see, you just see what I'm dealing with, but you can't really. And I guess that, you know, if you really love me, then you're really gonna go through some things. If you really love me, like my children, they really love their mom, so they went through it with me. You know, my mom, she really loves me, so she went through hell with me. You know, my dad, same thing. You know, but I can honestly say, like, one big blessing I can say that came out of it. My dad was an alcoholic for like over 30-some years. So, I mean, a bad alcoholic. We thought he was going to die in the streets, literally. Okay. So I'm thinking he was dealing with some things with his mental health. But literally, when I had that nervous breakdown and I was crying out for my dad, something snapped in him, and he has not been drinking ever since.
That's great.
Literally.
That's great.
Yes, he pretty much just got straightened his whole life out, and it's been like that since 2009. That's been that's my daughter's 12, so it's been that's a good thing that came. I got my dad back
too.
Yeah, I got my dad back.
Yeah.
So basically, it's I think the way we move past shame and stigma and different things like that. I think that you have to not be ashamed of what you've been through and what you that don't mean telling every last detail, but you got to tell people. People would ask me, why are you not with your kids, or why are you why are you this and that, and I used to be so ashamed. But what do I got to be ashamed of?
See, that's where I was when I got out the hospital.
Yeah,
I didn't know no one on the job. A couple of people, probably two that came over my house. No one knew why I was gone. Didn't know where I was or when I was coming back. All you know is that, a few weeks later or whatever that, I showed back up. And so that's all they knew. They knew that I just showed. I didn't have to tell why. But then it begins to, when you see other people start going through that, then something happens to you to make you want to say, hey, look, I understand. Or you want to tell part of your story also to try to help someone. I'm different in that area now. Before I wouldn't have told anyone what I went through, where I was, or what I've been through, or any type of, or I've suffered from depression and anxiety. The depression and anxiety. To where the point that I have coworkers now. They'll tell me, you need to just bring it on down a little bit, bro. Just slow. You good to have people in your life like that tell you you're moving too fast to where you're at.
You know why? Because people is uncomfortable with truth, and that's what I realized about people. People, they will love a lie.
Yeah.
You tell them, oh, God bless me with a good job. Oh, God bless me with a wife.
Right.
God bless me, but to tell the truth about life, for real. Yeah, I was married at 18. You know what I'm saying? We had a good marriage. We had everything. And then, we had 5 children. And then all hell broke loose. I lost my mind. Yeah. And I'm a Christian. Literally. I literally laid on the floor and asked God to kill me. I didn't even know what was going on with me. Because I was underneath so much stress. I didn't even know my mind was totally about to slip right at that moment. And it was slipping. And it was, I didn't know. I had no clue. But how can you go, people try to piece this together. How can you be praying every day, fasting and praying and seeking after God and trusting God and all this stuff like that, and you're praying and literally more hell come on you. You already trusting God to get out of this, and literally more hell.
And the more things that happen, the more you're thinking, I'm not getting closer to God, or God's not hearing me, or you're doing something wrong.
Yes, and people don't want to hear about facts and reality. Okay, literally, I thought.
You say they don't want to hear about facts and reality.
No, they don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about that. Literally, okay, how am I be a virgin when I got married to my husband? How am I be a whole virgin? Married him, and then men take advantage of me after we're married because of my mental health. Right. How is that? How does that make sense? That don't even make sense. No. It don't make sense. So people are like, don't say nothing. No, because I'm dealing with this. So, unless and even when you're talking to therapists, a lot of therapists can't even deal with it. They can't even deal with it. So how do you deal with it? And that's why you see a lot of people, they deal with life. And why so many people commit suicide and stuff like that? Because they can't find nobody to talk to or listen to their stuff that's going on with them and things. People don't want to talk about it. You want to talk about, oh, God gonna bless you with $10,000 next week or whatever. You want to talk about stuff that ain't even real.
Right. Since we're talking about the black community too, when you can't find anybody to relate to you, you don't want to talk to them. Whether it's the therapist, a med doctor, or a case manager, you don't find them. You know, most of us on our level is case managers and things like that. But when you get into the level of wanting to therapy, it took me a long time. And I've told people it took me a while going through different therapists till I found one that was a match. And that person wasn't black.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment during or after this segment at Tony DeMayor at anchor.fm. That's TonyDamayor at anchor.fm. Or bigdog0862@me.com. That's BIGDOG0862@me.com. Or you can call at 785-307-4662. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, back to our segment, Let's Talk About Church.
I mean, they were good, but they, and not saying that I have to have someone black, but it's some things that happen to us and that go in that we like to be somebody be able to shake their head and say, I understand.
Yes.
To say that.
Because literally, I believe that there's a lot of things that went on with my mental health. Okay, I might have been born with it or whatever, but there were certain triggers they call triggers. Okay. When you have mental health issues, there's certain things that trigger you off. Another thing, we were going through a lot at that time, dealing with racism and things going on, black people getting killed, black people do. You don't think that mess with black people's mental health?
Yeah.
They might hide it. You're dealing with all this stuff, and then you got your own issues. I mean, we're dealing with trying to come out of poverty and trying to deal with generational curses and all kind of issues. Then we got to worry about our kids and just all kind of stuff going on. And it's only but so much your mind can take. But that's another reason why I really don't. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing as far as like spirituality, religion, God, and everything. I'm trying to figure out. I know God is real, but I don't know if the box that I had him in is the correct box.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know.
Because I don't know if it was more detrimental to my mental health or better. Because literally, if you're thinking. Oh, the rapture has taken place. Oh, you're going to hell, or you're in hell, or you're gonna burn, and you it's just I don't know if it's good for your mental health.
Yeah, I don't think it is when you're in that position.
And you talking to angels and demons, you feel like you are. And
not that just us, but it's the way. Again, I'll say the way the church addresses a lot of things. The way they handle it. I've had churches. I've been in churches where I knew kids had ADHD or behavior problems, different type of things. And the first thing, we want to lay your hands on them and cast this spirit out of them. But you still have that person is still dealing with this thing. I always say we believe God for everything but our mind. If the doctor tell you need to start taking a pill for your high blood pressure, you're going to take it. Whether you believe in God or not, because then you're going to say, well, God led the doctor to give me this pill. But if it's our mind, we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to think that, that medication is wrong with medicine. And I can say, I'm an advocate for people, and I think you said already that they filled you with medication. A lot of times they're trying those regimens of medication to see which one work right. And people might try a whole lot of different things before they find out something work right. And that's a dangerous place to be, and stuff. So, I thank God for those people who can find something that helps them.
Well, one time I was literally on like over 13 pills.
And
all I could do, my dad would literally tell them, like, why is my daughter on so much medication?
That's a lot.
And I think they deemed me because literally the way one thing about me is I'm not a fake person, and it's only so far I can fake with
just
something.
Give it.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know, what you're trying to do to me. I don't know if you're trying to poison me. I don't know, literally. And this is some real stuff. Wow. And people don't really understand like how this stuff called. People tell you to read history. Do you really want to read history? Is history good for your mental health? You know what I'm saying? Is it good? Okay, because literally we're sitting here in America, where they've done all kind of atrocities to black people.
Right.
Okay, you go to a mental hospital, all the nurses are white. Everybody's white that's giving you the meds. Everybody's white that's giving you the food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there was literally so many black people in there feeling like they were being poisoned, feeling like that they didn't know what was going on with them. You know what I'm saying? This is a nightmare.
Right.
This is not it's a whole nightmare. You cannot you cannot trust. And this is what black people are going through every day. If we be honest.
People don't understand that.
Yeah, we go through this every day. When you go to the hospital, if we be honest, if you think, we go to the hospital and you don't know what's going on. If you really read and then maybe they say ignorance is bliss and niggas know this. You know what I'm saying? If you stay ignorant, then it's bliss. But if you're a little smart, you got a little bit of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You gonna question.
The first time I ever heard that one.
Yes, it's in some kind of song or something. I don't know where it's at, but yes, like literally, like if you're like a person like me that likes to study and read and stuff like that, like you don't know,
right.
Like literally, like what I had even went back with my mental health when my son had got he had a surgery. But back when 2005, he had surgery when he was born. He looked perfectly fine, right? Then they said that he wasn't processing his food, but he looked fine to me and my husband at the time. And they said he had an intestinal, like something wrong with his intestine. They did surgery on him, everything, took out his appendix and everything. And then he was having issues like with his liver and stuff like that. He's fine now. I mean, I prayed over that boy over and over. I prayed and prayed and prayed. But when my mental health was failing, I'm like, oh, they used my son as an experiment.
Yeah. You're talking about. Because that's how we think. I mean, because of history.
Because history.
Yes.
So before we start dealing with black people mental health, I believe we have to address the histories and the atrocities in America in general. You can't talk about a whole bomb being dropped on Tulsa, Oklahoma. What was it? The Black Wall Street. And you don't think that's going to mess with black people mental health? Yeah. Literally, a lot of our mental health comes from, it comes from our upbringings and everything else, but it comes from history. Yes, I believe majority of black people, I'm gonna be real with you, have mental health issues. Right. Think about it. We don't like to wear our regular hair. We don't like, if we wear our natural hair, we'll tell each other that's ugly. Somebody too dark, we'll be like, oh, you're black, you're ugly. We'll literally sit up underneath a white man in church, but we won't sit up underneath a black man. You know what I'm saying? It's bad.
Yeah, it is.
So before we address this, the black people mental health is deep. It's very deep. It goes way.
You got to discuss some of the trauma.
Yes, because that's it's being passed down trauma. Oh, you too black. Oh, don't get with somebody that's black. The kid's gonna be too black.
On this trauma stuff, people talk about it, and not us, but a lot of people talk about it like, oh, it's so long ago.
No, it's not.
Do you think? I mean, I grew up in Chicago, South Side. All you see is blackness. On the north side, all you see is white. You know what I'm saying? The suburb. So the city may be, people talking about, oh, you grew up in Chicago, you around this. No, you wasn't, because it may be a huge city, but it's segregated. It was segregated. People talking about, I want to move from the south to the north back then. They was in for a shock, because you go into these communities that were full of housing projects, poverty, crime, gangs, and all these things, even though they left. I guess it was a better life than what was really going on in the South, but we had to come in still in segregation. So you think about this I just said it on the podcast last week. You take I think it was last week. I said, when you take us out of our country, bring you over on a boat, and so many of us died coming over. Yes. But those who made it found out that they were going to be put up sold like cattle on an auction block.
So stop right there. So tell me this. So how can we go through all that, right? Then you literally have the same people that did all that to you tell you how you gonna get to heaven and hell after you living in hell.
Living in hell.
That's why I think a lot of this upbringing comes from slavery. You know what I'm saying? That's feeling like we got to have a pastor. We got to have somebody over us. A lot of people, a lot of black people won't have nobody but a white pastor over them. That's the way I grew up. That's the way they wanted a white pastor over them, So the way somebody tells you, and it tells, we're in the last days. And I always tell my mama, well, I'm sure they thought they was in the last days back in slavery when they was all dying on the boat. And they get on the boat, they getting beat to death. Women committing suicide, going in the ocean. You ever watch Amistad?
Yeah, I've watched
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I got a story behind that movie.
So it's like, literally, like, what is the last day? Like, this day ain't no better than the next day or the last day or whatever. Like, it's literally just hell on earth. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, a lot of ways we've been taught, a lot of ways, stuff that I believe it comes back from history.
And what it does is that gives you a mindset that it's not going to ever be better. They worried about, they say they wonder why so many black people feel like that, or some of them like crabs in a bucket pull each other down. They're still going up. It's that you got to think about where they came from. And so why they feel this way.
Yes, but they know that. That's the thing. A lot of people know. They know, but it's a stigma. It's also a stigma for us to speak out against, stuff that black people has been through. That's a stigma too. Yeah. To speak out against it and to talk about it and stuff. But yeah, you cannot address mental health without addressing the trauma that black people have been through and are currently going through. You can't believe. I remember one time I was at one of my jobs and was it Trayvon Martin got killed or whatever, and I went crazy, like just went whack. You're like, I can't believe that shit. Just constantly acting all crazy and stuff. Right. And I think, they're like, oh, this girl crazy. But literally, I had not been on the level. The medication they give me is to keep me calm and to keep me, you know what I'm saying? I guess it keeps me.
What is it, balance or something?
Balance. And it also, it works good for them too, because it keeps you to keep calm in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because literally, if I wasn't on it, literally, it would be like, when stuff trigger me, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, woo, 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 like that. So it's good. So there's actually a lot of people like that. You'd be surprised what goes on in mental hospitals.
Yeah.
People, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. They don't, America, they just put them away and they don't talk about it. But literally people thinking the government's conspiring against them. And a lot of stuff they say is probably true stuff. But we try to write them off as crazy.
Right.
But yeah, it's probably a lot of true stuff. They're thinking deeply. They don't want nobody to think deeply.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, don't think too deep. Think, but not too deep. You know, because you think too deep, they're gonna put you on the meds and put you to sleep. Because when they see a lot of all of us, then they try to break that up. When it's a lot of black
too many together.
Too many all together. We gotta come swoop in. You know what I'm saying? So they understand.
But I'm really going back to that is that when I got out, when I left the hospital, what was I was looking for someone to relate to, and a lot of times, we have people that get out the hospital and they go right back into something that no one understands their diagnosis, nobody understands their medication. All they got to do is, all they have is people telling them to take their medication. No one understands that what they really need, is someone with a listening ear to understand. Because a lot of times people don't even understand. You tell them, I'm bipolar. Or I'm
she crazy.
That's the first thing they
think. Let me stay away from her. She crazy. Yeah, it's not that. It's bipolar is highs and lows, and you go through highs, you go through manic. Like I have bipolar type 1. So what I would go through is a manic high. Like I would feel like I was on top of the world. Sometimes I would feel like I was a prophetess or a preacher, so that's why I think where my background, religious background, coming. I'm thinking I'm somebody big, supernaturally spiritual, or I would think I'm something big, just something big, and it would be a high. I'll become
I don't think they understand that manic high too much. They think that's the good part about bipolar.
Yeah, but when you come down and you realize all this stuff you did, and you just constantly will beat yourself up. And one thing I say about Alex used to work with y'all.
Yes.
Yes, and so she's like the best case manager ever. Like even though she wasn't black, you know what I'm saying? She was like, she would, even when I rail off at her, oh, I don't understand this, about black and white and this and that. And even when I wouldn't even trust, I didn't trust her for the longest.
Okay.
It took her a while for her to break that down. And I know it's probably stressful for her.
Right.
But it took me a while for me to break that barrier down because she wasn't black. And then there's black people I don't even trust. When you're going when you're going through it, you don't know who you can trust. You know what I'm saying? So she really played a big part in helping me with my mental health, because there's times I didn't have nobody, because a lot of times people turn your back on you when they feel like, oh, you crazy or she's not stable or whatever. They turn their back on you.
We come out of hospital to come off not even hospitals all the time, and we can't find anyone to relate. Sometimes your own family.
No, your own family cannot. Church family, they the worst. I say church people are the worst. They the worst because they live in some kind of fantasy world or whatever where God got me, the devil ain't gonna cause me no harm or whatever. But when real life hits you, you know what I'm saying? It's not a joke and it's not a game. Okay. Either you got it or you don't. So
one last thing that I want to talk about is kind of how do we move forward? How do you, not just you move forward, but how do we and everyone move forward, in some of these things, because, we can't just recognize minority mental health once a month, and then the other 11 months we're not thinking and focusing in about it. What I hope is that some people learn something. I want people to learn something about it, or learn something about diversity, about minorities, about blacks, white. When I came in the Army, I came from Chicago, like I said, all black neighborhood, to Georgia, South Carolina and Georgia, and in platoons with that I'm only about 3 or 4 black guys in. And I didn't know some of the terms they were using. I didn't know some of the the ways they react. I didn't know they didn't understand why I was putting lotion on every day. So I won't be ashy. Why you putting grease in your hair? We don't put grease in our hair. So it's like back and forth. People don't know each other. Yeah,
backgrounds and two different things.
And so I know it's the same thing in mental health.
I think that more the way that we move forward, I think more people have to feel comfortable with speaking out about it too, because I do, and we can't just say it's just all on Black people, because white people got to understand, even in the society, like they have, I have been in, and I don't know if you ever heard the mental hospital Osawatomie.
Osawatomie.
So Osawatomie, like I felt like I dealt with like racism even there. People got to be. I think a lot of times people don't know what their prejudices and their
you got to understand one thing. People tell you live in Junction City and it's a diverse community. Yeah. But you go 10, 20 miles each way and it's not diverse. So I know you was in Osawatomie.
Yes. You already know.
Yeah.
I ain't even got to tell you.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're going to face some of those things.
Yes, you're going to face it. And so all that's not necessarily good for your mental health either. So I think as Black people, we're people, it's a lot going on with us. It's a lot going on with us. It's a lot going on with us. And we can't even scratch it in just like a couple sessions, because it's just so much going on. But the thing about it is we have to recognize that we have a lot going on with us. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I understand.
And we're trying to, instead of trying to spiritualize it, or when we all get to heaven, or go to church 7 days a week, or praying it away, or whatever, deal with it. If there's anybody that needs a therapist, it's Black people. Yeah, we're the ones that's running around here straightening our hair and doing all kind of stuff and trying to get lighter. And even in Jamaica, because my boyfriend is from Jamaica, like literally the women use skin lightening things to lighten their skin. And you tell me that's not a mental illness?
Yeah, something wrong there.
That's mental. That's mental health,
Yeah.
So that you feel like you have to be lighter. You be lighter, you have a better life.
You're ashamed of who you are already.
So then we asked ourselves the questions: are we really the ones? Society. This is what my dad always told me. He said the way he said it is crazy to be sane in the insane world. It's hard to be sane in the insane world.
Okay.
So how can you be sane? How can you be mental health when the world is crazy? So you have to find a way. We know the world is crazy. Come on, this America. Come on, this is supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, and what all this craziness going on here. So when you really wake up, you realize the world is really crazy. So so really, So the way we have to find some kind of balance in here, where we find our own peace, our own solace. You know what I'm saying? Our own. This is not good. You know what your triggers are. This is not good for my mental health.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And things like that. And so the way I moved forward it wasn't by myself. I had help. I had some people, that reached out and touched. But a lot of the hard times, you had to find the strength within you. I think we can't be afraid to go seek therapy. We can't be afraid to talk to somebody, a counselor or somebody. You're not Superman. You're not Superwoman. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to reach out. And you can't reach out. You can't reach out to everybody, because some people put your business out there. So, like, I think therapy is good. Like, seeing a therapist is good.
Understand our diagnosis and our medication. It's good to get there. Good to figure it out. Anything that you want to say anything in closing?
I just want to say that just know that if you're dealing with mental health, especially in Black mental health, just know that you're not alone. A lot of people are dealing with it. They're not diagnosed. A lot of people are even in therapy for dealing with people that need to be in therapy. You know what I'm saying? They won't get help, so they're making you, go crazy or whatever. But so you just know you're not alone. Yeah. Just know you're not alone. There's a lot of people out here dealing with the same things. Never be ashamed of your own experience.
All right. Well, thank you so much. One thing I can say, you keep it 100. And I know that you keep it 100. And I like that, because I maybe you can use my term. I used to say, I kept it 100 too much sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes too much, yeah.
I would tell people, I'm going to let you know what I'm saying, so you don't have to wonder, was he saying that when I walk away? And that's how I always been. I want you to understand exactly what I'm saying, so when you walk away, you won't have to wonder, is that what he meant? Oh, you're going to know what I meant.
I don't know how to keep it no other way.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm glad that you tuned in today to listen from the beginning until the end. And I appreciate that. Now, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at BigDog0862 bigdog0862@me.com. bigdog0862@me.com. That's my email address. You can also reach me by phone at 785-307-4662. You can leave a message there. You can reach me on the internet. Just type my name into any search engine. And the way you do that is just type in Antonio the Mayor Timms. Antonio the Mayor Timms. Most of all, appreciate when you listen on YouTube, because you can leave a message there. You can leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You can leave a like or dislike. You can leave a comment. But most of all, you can subscribe. So please continue to listen to me and continue to support this show that focuses on experience, strength, and your hope. Thank you. Have a good day. Be blessed. Be nice. But be real most of all.